The widowed CEO is surprised by the delivery waitress, who melted his frosty heart. Richard Caldwell shuffled through the lonely corridors of his high-rise office, the glass walls towering above him like a cold cage, trapping his grief inside. A year had passed since his wife's passing, and each day felt like trudging through molasses. He wore a mask of indifference, responding to his employees with curt nods and short replies, a ghost among the living. Outside, the rain slashed against the windows, mirroring the gray feeling lodged in his chest. It was one of those particularly dreary afternoons when the rain came hammering down, and he found himself buried in a tedious negotiation that felt more like an exercise in futility than a business deal. Exasperated, Richard resorted to calling a local delivery service that he had never tried before. "Just get me something quick," he mumbled to himself, not even bothering to look at the menu. Then the unexpected happened. The phone. He hadn't heard a tone so cheerful in ages, and it scratching an itch deep within him he didn't know was there. He placed his order, but that voice lingered in the air long after he hung up. As he stared out over the rain-soaked cityscape, the weight of his melancholy felt heavier, yet somehow lighter, as if Mia's cheer had seeped into his bones. He sorted through papers at his desk, trying to push away the flutter of thoughts about their interaction. The gray view outside felt desaturated and dreary, but a spark of intrigue about Mia flickered inside him. Could he dare to crave connection so soon after losing everything? Just as the thought of calling her phone number flickered through his mind like a light bulb in a dark room, his phone buzzed violently, dragging him back to his reality. An urgent text from his CFO flashed across the screen, demanding his immediate attention on a spiraling business crisis. He gritted his teeth, frustration tightening his throat as he rushed to. "We have information that might change everything you thought you knew about her last days." The words hit him like a cold wave, dragging him under again. Would this news plunge him deeper into despair, or would it give him the courage he needed to finally reach out to Mia and break free from his self-imposed exile? Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. And tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know each incredible person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The echo of laughter faded as Jay. A few glances were exchanged that set her nerves on edge, whispers cutting through the cheerful chatter. "Did you hear? They're saying Sarah's been hiding something. Something big," someone murmured behind her. The words floated like a dark cloud over the gathering. Jamie's heart raced. Sarah was her best friend. What could she be hiding? She forced herself to breathe, to think. Then she noticed it. Sarah, standing a little apart, her smile stretched tight and pained, eyes darting away from Jamie's searching gaze. There was something off, something raw in that familiar face. A sense of urgency bubbled under Jamie's skin. She pushed through the crowd, each step heavier with dread. "Hey, Sarah," she called, but the warmth of her voice cracked as it slipped into the air. As they locked eyes, Jamie saw the flash of panic in Sarah's. It sent chills down her spine. But before Jamie could reach her, the world exploded. A piercing scream broke through the laughter, slicing the air like glass. The crowd froze, heads snapping towards the source of the noise. "Help! Someone help!" It came again, a desperate plea. The chaos erupted, a flurry of motion as people turned, eyes wide with fear. In an instant, Sarah stumbled back, clutching her stomach. Jamie's heart lurched. "Sarah!" Time slowed as Sarah doubled over, a terrified gasp escaping her lips. Something glinted in her hand, and it took a moment for Jamie to understand. A small metal object. A knife. Then everything spiraled. Jamie dashed forward, her mind racing. "What happened? What's wrong?" The commotion swelled around them, but her focus narrowed. Sarah's breath was ragged, trembling hands stained crimson. A gasp from the crowd. Murmurs woven with shock filled the air. Did she? Is she? But then, as Jamie reached her, Sarah's eyes locked onto hers. "I didn't! They made me!" Panic spilled from her voice, desperation flooding her features. Jamie's world tilted. Sarah, her best friend, had blood on her hands? Before Jamie could reply, a blaring siren pierced the madness, drawing everyone's attention. "Police!" The sharp sound swept through the crowd, pulling faces together in a shared look of dread. That's when Jamie saw it. A figure at the edge of the party, lurking in the shadows, watching. A stranger, but their eyes were familiar. The connection cracked like thunder within her. "Who are you?" she whispered, fear knotting her stomach. But, as if answering her question, the figure stepped forward. The sunlight caught the glint of a badge. A police officer. "Step away from her!" Everything exploded again. Jumbled shouts. An ambulance approaching in the distance. But Sarah, trembling and scared, looked between Jamie and the officer, confusion stitched into her expression. They threatened me." The world faltered. Threatened? Who? Why? Suddenly, the ground shifted beneath Jamie's feet, and she found herself questioning everything she thought she knew. "Sarah, what did you do?" And just like that, Jamie felt the fragile threads of their friendship unraveling, leaving her encased in a web of lies. As the chaos swirled around them, she could only stare in disbelief at the reality crashing down like a wave, unsure how deep the secrets ran. The sirens wailed closer. Jamie's heart raced. Desperation gripped her. She didn't know what would come next, but one thought clawed at her mind. This was only the beginning. As the sirens grew louder, Jamie felt a sense of urgency gripping her chest, tight and unyielding. She stared at Sarah, trembling and scared, blood seeping from her wound like a dark testament to the truth that had just shattered her world. "What did you do?" she croaked, panic setting in. Her best friend was crumpled, and Jamie's mind spun in a whirlpool of confusion. "I didn't want to. They forced me." Sarah's voice came out in frantic gasps, her eyes flickering between Jamie and the officer approaching. Each plea felt like a knife twisting deeper into Jamie's heart. A man in a uniform stepped into the space, his expression stern and commanding. Step away from her! His voice cut through the noise, and the crowd fell silent, eyes wide, fear palpable. Jamie instinctively backed up but kept her gaze locked on Sarah. "Who threatened you?" Jamie's heart raced, each beat echoing in her ears. She needed answers, but instead of responding, Sarah's eyes darted, haunted and wild, as though the shadows around them were alive. A gruff voice from the back of the crowd shouted, "Someone has to call an ambulance." Another added, "What happened?" As the officers moved in, Jamie's trembling hands reached out. "You have to tell me. I'm here. I'm with you." But the connection between them felt as thin as a spider's web, fragile and ready to snap. Then it happened. A loud crash resonated from the side of the gathering. Metal clanged and everyone turned. A black van had careened into the path of the party, halting abruptly, smoke curling from the engine. Jamie's heart dropped. "Get back!" the officer yelled, urgency breaking through the chaos. Jamie's instincts kicked in. She pushed through the crowd, adrenaline pumping in her veins. What had just burst into their lives? Suddenly, a familiar face stepped out of the van, and Jamie felt the earth shift beneath her. It was Ethan, the very man Sarah had been dating. But his eyes weren't wide with shock. No, they sparkled with something darker, something threatening. "Sarah!" he shouted, his voice grim. "Come with me now!" Everyone gasped, the whispers growing. "What's going on? Who is he?" Jamie forced the question out, panic clawing at her throat. And that's when Sarah screamed, "No! Don't come near me!" It was a plea laced with terror, a raw sound that rang through the air and stabbed at Jamie's heart. Ethan took a step closer, ignoring the officer's bark, to stand down. "You took something that wasn't yours, Sarah. We had a deal." With those words, a chilling realization gripped Jamie. A deal? What kind of deal? She turned back to Sarah, whose face was twisted in fear. The blood staining her hands wasn't just from her wound. It was a symbol of something deeper, darker. "What deal?" Jamie whispered, feeling her world crumbling. Then, out of nowhere, a loud bang cracked through the air. A gunshot! The crowd erupted in chaos. Shrieks of panic mixing with cries for help. In that moment, time froze. Sarah collapsed to the ground, eyes wide with disbelief, as Jamie's heart sank deeper than ever before. She felt the floor drop beneath her, the air thick with horror and despair. As Jamie dropped to her knees next to Sarah, she saw the glint of metal slip from her friend's fingers. A small, coded flash drive, the glowing truth of hidden lives. I didn't mean to." Sarah's voice faded, blood bubbling as Jamie's breath hitched in her throat. The crowd surged, the officer bellowing for order. But Jamie was lost in a storm of emotions. Betrayal, fear, anger, everything collided with her heart. And just like that, the threads of their world began to unravel. With each beat, she wondered, what had Sarah done? What secrets had she kept? Who was Ethan really? As Jamie's tears fell onto Sarah's still form, a shattering question clawed at her mind. Would she ever learn the truth before it all slipped away? As Jamie knelt beside Sarah, her trembling hands cupping her friend's face, time felt irrelevant. She was lost in a storm of disbelief. Blood pooled beneath Sarah, dark and ominous, each heartbeat counting down to the end. Jamie could barely breathe. Stay with me, please. But then, everything shifted. The crowd gasped collectively, eyes wide, as a figure emerged from the shadows behind the van, stepping forward with a steely resolve. It was Ethan, his expression no longer grim, but utterly menacing. He held something in his hand, glinting in the dying sunlight. A gun. "Now this is where it gets interesting," he said, a twisted smile creeping across his face. "I warned you not to cross me, Sarah." Sarah's eyes flickered from Jamie to Ethan, confusion swirling in her pain. "What did you do, Sarah?" Jamie's voice trembled. She needed answers, but all she got was silence and fear. Ethan stepped closer, each movement deliberate. "We had a deal. She broke it. And look what happened." The crowd murmured, the whispers heavy with dread. No one dared to move. They were entranced by this unfolding nightmare. Suddenly, the air crackled with tension. "What deal?" Jamie's voice broke. But deep down, she felt it. The truth was closer, just beyond reach. "You don't want to know, Jamie," Sarah gasped, blood trickling from her lips. They offered me a way out, a chance for freedom." Panic threaded through her voice. "I didn't want any of this." But then, in a shocking twist, Ethan laughed, a cold, unnerving sound. "Freedom?" His eyes glinted with a twisted satisfaction. "There's no freedom when you play with fire, Sarah. You knew the risk." Before Jamie could respond, a voice barked from the sidelines. An officer had regained control of the situation. "Everyone, stay back!" His presence was commanding, yet it faltered slightly, uncertainty flashing across his face upon seeing the weapon. In that split second, the world spiraled. Sarah convulsed, her breath hitching. "I didn't think it would come to this," she managed to say, her eyes pleading with Jamie, desperate for understanding, for forgiveness. But the raw truth pierced through Jamie's mind. "You were involved in something dangerous. What were you hiding?" In an instant, Ethan lunged forward, everything unfolded, like the snap of a brittle twig underfoot. "Stop! Don't you dare move!" the officer shouted, reaching for his own sidearm. And then, just like that, a deafening explosion ripped through the air. A gunshot rang out, but it wasn't Ethan. It wasn't the officer either. No, it came from the van that had crashed moments before. A hooded figure emerged from inside, aimed without hesitation, and fired again. The world shifted violently. Chaos erupted as screams pierced the air. A child's wail, an old woman's cry. People scattered like leaves in the wind. Heartbeats racing, bodies colliding. Janie instinctively dove on top of Sarah, shielding her friend, even as her heart hammered against her ribs. "Get down!" the officer shouted, pushing people away. The crowd morphed into a scene of panic, everyone running, diving, crying. With the chaos swirling around her, Jamie looked up, but her world had become a blur of bodies, shouting, and fear. Through it all, she could barely see Ethan standing, frozen, mouth agape in disbelief. His facade had cracked. "Sarah!" he yelled, desperation threading through his voice. But as Jamie glanced back down, shock washed over her. Sarah wasn't just lying there. Her fingers had curled around the small flash drive, the coded message still glowing weakly. "Jamie," Sarah whispered, and Jamie leaned in closer, newfound determination sparking in her chest. "You need to listen. But then, in a blinding flash, the hooded figure turned their gaze, locking eyes with Jamie. Their face was obscured, but in that moment, Jamie felt an icy grip on her throat. Who were they? Why were they here? And with that glaring uncertainty hanging in the air, the uncertainty of her friend's innocence, the truth of the deal, and the identity of the stranger, the chaotic moments spiraled into a bottomless abyss. As the echoes of chaos resounded, one thought crashed against everything she believed. Did she really know Sarah at all? What if the ties that bonded them were nothing but lies? As Jamie knelt next to Sarah, the chaos surrounding them felt unreal, like a nightmare she couldn't. You're going to be okay. Just hold on, okay? But Sarah's eyes were filled with fear and something else, something she couldn't quite place. Was it regret? Jamie's mind raced. It was all happening too fast. The crowd swirled around them, gasps and cries echoing, but Jamie's focus was solely on her friend. Tell me what happened, please. Suddenly, a shot rang out, loud and deafening, cutting through the panic. Everyone froze. Faces turned toward Ethan, who stood shock-still, eyes wide with terror. The officer shouted again, ordering Ethan to drop the weapon. But then, out of nowhere, a voice came from the shadows, sharp and commanding. Enough! It was a woman's voice, firm and resolute. Everyone turned, confusion written on their faces. Jamie's heart pounded. Who was this new player in their twisted game? The hooded figure turned to reveal a familiar face, one that rocked Jamie to her core. It was Maya, her older sister. What are you doing here? Jamie's voice shook. This couldn't be real. Maya? Sarah gasped, her hand twitching. You shouldn't be here. I had to come. I heard the shots. Maya stepped forward, her gaze a mixture of urgency and anger. You've gotten too deep, Sarah. You've put everyone in danger. I didn't want this, Sarah moaned, clutching Jamie's arm weakly. They made me. But Maya stepped closer, her expression darkening. Who, Sarah? Who made you do this? The tension in the air thickened. Jamie could feel it, an electric charge that hinted at secrets buried beneath the surface. But before Sarah could answer, a shudder rippled through her body. Jamie's breath caught as Sarah's grip loosened, the warmth of her hand slipping away. Sarah, no! Come on, stay with me! Jamie cried, panic setting in as she felt the life drain from her friend. But Sarah's eyes glazed over, the light fading. I'm so sorry, Jamie. Her voice was barely a whisper, shattered by the weight of her confession. You have to trust Maya. She knows the truth. With that, Sarah's eyes closed. A final breath escaped her lips, leaving Jamie frozen in a world of despair. Time stopped. Everything around her collapsed into silent screams. Then a shattering sound erupted. A flash, fireworks of chaos, and Jamie felt a sudden rush of cold air. Somebody had fired again, the crack of gunfire splitting the crowd. Panic surged. Bodies moved wildly as people screamed, fled, and stumbled over one another. And amidst the chaos, Jamie's heart raced. She caught a glimpse of Maya, her sister's eyes fierce. But now they held another layer, something hidden, something dark. Jamie, come here. We need to go, now! Maya shouted, urgency lacing her voice. Go? What about Sarah? Jamie's heart sank. This was all the whirlwind of betrayal. The officer was still shouting, trying to regain control, but Maya grabbed Jamie's arm, pulling her away. "You don't understand. This isn't over." Tears streamed down Jamie's face as she fought against Maya's grip. "What do you mean? You're not making sense. What's happening?" The truth slammed into Jamie like a freight train as reality twisted. Maya had a motive. There was so much she didn't know. Secrets bubbled just beneath the surface, and Jamie's heart raced with a horrific thought. What if Maya was involved? What if she had known all along? As the last echoes of gunfire faded, one question clawed at her insides. How well did she really know her sister? And as the alarm bells rang throughout the streets, Jamie realized, perhaps too late, that she was about to discover a truth more devastating than she could ever imagine. As Jamie stared in shock at Sarah's lifeless body, the world blurred around her. Panic swirled in her chest like a storm, and she felt her heart racing faster than ever. The sirens echoed in the background, a reminder of the chaos brewing just outside their small circle. "Jamie, we need to go," Maya urged, pulling at her arm again, desperation in her voice. Each tug felt like a lifeline, but Jamie couldn't let go. Not yet. There was something that had to be said, something that begged to be understood. "Who threatened her, Maya?" Jamie's voice was shaky, but she couldn't back down. "What is going on?" Please, this isn't the place." Maya's eyes darted nervously. She was scared, and it was contagious. Fear gripped Jamie like a vice, but she had to find out what was happening, what secret Sarah had taken to the grave. Just then, a crackling voice came through a nearby officer's radio, cutting through the confusion. "Attention! We need backup. Possible shots fired. Keep everyone clear of the area." A knot tightened in Jamie's stomach. It was a warning. The shadowing figure had already set the wheels of fate in motion. "Jamie!" Maya's urgency rose, her grip tightening. "They're coming for us! We can't stay here!" But Jamie still couldn't look away from Sarah. There was something she had to understand. "I have to know the truth. She said to trust you," Jamie whispered, still kneeling. Maya's face fell, trembling beneath the weight of her own fear. "You don't know what you're asking!" Before Jamie could respond, a deafening roar erupted from the van. The back doors swung open violently, and out rushed a man in a black jacket, his face masked. A rush of adrenaline flooded Jamie's system. This was not happening. "Everybody down!" he shouted, his voice sharp as glass, sending everyone scurrying. Jamie's heart slammed against her chest, thinking only of survival. "Maya!" she shouted as they ducked behind a nearby tree, adrenaline surging. "What do we do?" But instead of answering, Maya's eyes widened and she gasped. Jamie turned, following her gaze, and there it was. Ethan had lunged forward, a wild look in his eyes. "Sarah!" he screamed again. But it was more than a plea. It was a desperate cry of betrayal. Just then, a shot rang out, and Jamie felt time slow. The officer, desperate to regain control, had fired into the air. But it was the figure in black that was the true threat. Jamie barely registered the chaotic scene, the crowd gasping in disbelief. Then came a shocking twist. Maya lunged, quicker than Jamie could react. She pushed Jamie away, stepping between her and the masked attacker. "No!" Maya screamed, throwing her arms wide. The next moment, everything exploded into colors of horror. A second shot echoed, louder this time, and Maya fell to the ground. "No!" Jamie's scream tore through the air as she reached for her sister, her heart shattering. But beneath her bare fingertips, Maya's body went limp, the world tilted on its axis. No, no, no! This can't be happening, Jamie sobbed, drowning in disbelief and the sound of sirens blaring. Maya's eyes were glazed over, and Jamie felt the life force draining from her. Maya, please don't leave me. Her voice wavered, the desperate plea hanging in the chaos like an unanswered question. But as she knelt beside Maya, something caught her eye. The flash drive. It glinted in the sunlight, and Jamie's breath caught. What secrets had Sarah carried? In that moment, something about the way he moved sent chills down her spine. This time, it felt personal. "You're next," he whispered, as if wrapped in shadows. The ground beneath Jamie's feet felt shaky, and she faced the stark reality of betrayal. Was she truly safe anywhere? Would she ever uncover the truth? With the weight of death pressing on her shoulders, Jamie's heart sank into the depths of uncertainty. As the world spun around her, nothing felt clear. The stakes had risen to new heights, and she could only wonder, how deep did this web of lies go? Jamie knelt beside Maya, her heart racing as the masked figure stepped closer, the air thick with tension. The crowd surged around them, gasps and cries filling the air. But all Jamie could focus on was the cold weight of fear pressing down on her. She felt as if the ground might swallow her whole. "Maya, please, we can't leave her." But Maya's eyes locked on the masked figure, a flicker of recognition flashing across her face. "It's not safe here, Jamie. We need to get out." Before Jamie could protest further, Maya turned suddenly, pulling Jamie away from Sarah's still form. "Trust me," she shouted above the din, her voice strained. As they stumbled to their feet, the tall figure loomed closer, the gun still raised. In that moment of chaos, Jamie caught a glimpse of the flash drive still clutched in Sarah's hand, the light dwindling and dim. "No, we can't leave without it," the masked figure shouted again, voice low but authoritative. "Step away from her." In a split second, Jamie made a decision. "I have to," she barely whispered, racing back toward Sarah. But just as she reached out to retrieve the drive, a gunshot rang out. Bang! The crowd erupted into panic, screams piercing the air like knives. Jamie felt the force push her back, a shockwave of fear coursing through her body. She didn't even know if the shot was meant for her or the masked figure. "Get down!" Maya shouted, her voice cracking as she yanked Jamie to the ground. Hearts racing, they ducked behind a nearby tree, pulses pounding like drums. "Did he shoot?" Jamie gasped, her voice trembling as she fought to comprehend the sudden surge of violence. "I don't know," Maya replied, peering from behind the trunk. But there was no time to breathe, no moment to think. The crowd swirled around in confusion. She caught glimpses of faces twisted in shock. Underneath all that panic, Jamie sensed something was shifting, something deep and unsettling. "Maya," she started, desperation flooding her words. "Who is he?" But Maya's eyes widened in horror, revealing a truth Jamie couldn't possibly grasp. "Run!" A commanding voice rose above the chaos. It wasn't the officer, or Ethan, but Maya? The masked figure hesitated, and in that moment of confusion, A loud thud echoed as a body dropped near them, motionless. It was Ethan. His eyes were staring blankly towards the sky, blood stained on his shirt. "What just happened?" Jamie's chest tightened, confusion consuming her. What is going on? And then it happened. Maya stepped forward, the urgency in her movements shifting as her demeanor changed. It was supposed to be a clean sweep, but they took Sarah. She knew too much. Jamie's heart stopped. "You mean you knew?" But Maya only shook her head, looking at Jamie with a mix of regret and determination. "I didn't know they would take it this far. We're in danger now. If they find us—" Before she could finish, another shot rang out. The crowd thinned as people ran, but Jamie remained rooted in place, confusion swirling in her mind. Thoughts spun faster than the scene before her. Why would they take her? What was on that drive? Jamie's breath quickened. Each word felt like a weight, bringing the reality crushing down. Sarah wasn't just a victim. Then it dawned on her. "Maya, you've been involved in this, haven't you?" The truth hung heavy in the air. Maya's face flickered, and for a moment, Jamie saw fear. It was never supposed to go this way. Suddenly, the masked figure took a step back, his eyes glinting through the shadows. "This is just the beginning. Little sister." Time froze. Jamie's blood ran cold. She turned to Maya, and the pieces slammed together like a broken puzzle. "What do you mean, sister?" Maya stood frozen, a mask of shock plastered on her face. "How did you know?" "What do you mean, how do I know? You've never told me this." The weight of the world threatened to bury Jamie under its pressure, ripping apart the very fabric of trust she'd held in her sister. As the chaos continued, now directed between Maya and the masked figure, the world around them felt like it was spinning out of control. "You've lied to me this whole time!" But Maya's expression hardened. "I did it to protect you." In that fractured moment, everything spun faster, and Jamie suddenly found herself questioning everything she thought she knew. Maya was not just her sister. She was part of something much darker. The masked figure stepped into the light, his face partially revealed, locking eyes with Jamie. "And now you're in it too." Before Jamie could voice her protests, a blinding light flashed overhead. A helicopter. Chop, chop, chop! Its blades roared, illuminating the chaos below. "Get your hands in the air!" The command pierced through the night as armed agents descended. The situation escalated faster than Jamie could comprehend. The last thread connecting Jamie to the truth snapped, and as the chaos unraveled around her, dread seeped into her bones. She was about to be sucked into a world she never asked for, faced with the horrifying reality that her trusted sister was not what she seemed. And as the agents moved in, Jamie's heart raced with one devastating thought. Could she ever trust her again? As the agents surrounded them, Jamie felt time freeze. Her heart raced, panic coiling tighter in her chest. Maya stood beside her, caught between the masked man and the armed officers. Tension crackled in the air, heavy and electric, as they awaited someone to take the lead. "Maya!" Jamie screamed, but her sister's expression was filled with something unrecognizable, a mixture of fear, perhaps, but also a resolve that sent chills down Jamie's spine. "Trust me," Maya said, her voice low but firm. In the swirl of chaos, the lights from the helicopter danced across the ground, casting shadows that flickered like ghosts. Jamie wanted to scream, to run, but before she could gather her wits, something shifted in the tension. A nearby officer suddenly turned, his eyes going wide, and yelled, "Drop the weapon!" The masked figure moved, but not toward the agent. He reached into his pocket, and everything seemed to slow down. Each heartbeat was like thunder in Jamie's ears. The world stood still as the figure pulled out something sharp and... he shouted, pointing to Maya with a wild look in his eyes. Maya gasped, everything crashing in. "What? No, don't!" Without warning, the masked figure lunged forward, and Jamie froze, her breath hitching in her throat. Then, chaos exploded. A flash, a sharp pain. Maya screamed, but it was a sound muffled by the chaos around them. The knife glinted cruelly as it flashed through the air, narrowly missing the officer who had charged ahead, trying to save them. Then, as if summoned by the chaos, a new voice cut through. The unmistakable sound of sirens grew louder, the cavalry arriving amidst the turmoil. But then Jamie saw it. The flash drive slipped from Sarah's fingers as Maya, in a desperate lunge to protect her sister, staggered and collapsed. Time shattered like glass. No! Jamie lunged, reaching for her sister as Maya's body hit the ground. It all fell apart in slow motion. Maya's blank eyes stared at the sky, the truth turning to ash in Jamie's mouth. But then, the masked figure stumbled, clutching his arm, his face twisting in agony. The flash drive landed by Maya's side, glowing ominously in the darkening light. Jamie's breath caught. The glint became a beacon, and a horrified realization flashed in her heart. The crowd froze again, shock splintering through them. All eyes on the figure. What are you doing?" someone murmured in disbelief. Amidst the confusion, the masked figure drew back, revealing his face, and as Jamie's eyes widened in shock, everything shattered. It was Ethan! The truth crashed over her like a tidal wave, bringing with it a darkness that wrapped around her heart. Her sister's boyfriend! How had he been part of this? The officers swarmed around him, but Jamie's world tilted. Each breath was sharp. "Ethan, why? Why would you do this?" The questions tumbled out, but they felt futile. "I had no choice." His eyes darted back to Maya, a sickness curling around his words. "They made me. She was always in the way. She knew too much." Jamie stumbled backward, the weight of betrayal suffocating. Everything she thought she understood warped into twisted betrayal. Ethan's gaze was wild, desperate. "I tried to protect you, to protect us, but she wouldn't stop." As the air crackled with tension, Jamie felt tears slip down her cheeks, hot and stinging. "You're lying! You didn't have to kill her!" But deep down, a cold knot settled in her gut. Unraveled threads tangled, secrets unraveling between them faster than she could comprehend. The roar of the helicopter overhead thundered like a heart beating harder, a pulse that kept everyone frozen in a moment of impossible choices. And in that heart-wrenching silence, a voice called over the commotion, shocking everyone to their core. A voice that could only belong to the one person she had expected last. "Stop!" Her own mother, rushing into the chaos, eyes wide with fear and fury. "What is going on here?" Everything froze again. And in that moment, Jamie's mind raced with disbelief. She had never even thought of her mother being involved. "Mom?" The words slipped out, shaky and unsure. But as their eyes locked, Jamie knew. She just knew. It wasn't just betrayal. It was betrayal that ran deeper than blood. Secrets that had threatened to swallow them all whole. "Run!" Maya whispered weakly, each breath more labored, revealing a truth they had all hidden. And standing at the heart of it all, Jamie clutched the truth tightly. The key to everything lay right where Sarah had fallen. in the glowing flash drive, and it could either save her family or destroy them forever. But now, with her mother stepping into the fray, the hope of finding answers twisted sharply, leaving only questions. A web of lies, deeper than any of them had understood. Jamie was left standing at a crossroads, her fate entwined with secrets that could rip them apart, or bring them closer than ever. The question was, did she have the strength to uncover the truth before it was too late? As Jamie stood there, overwhelmed by the chaos, her heart felt as though it had shattered into 1,000 pieces. The sight of Maya collapsed on the ground sent shockwaves through her. How could everything have spiraled out of control so quickly? Tears streamed down her face as she knelt beside her sister, feeling that weight of dread settle over her like a suffocating blanket. "Maya, no! Please, stay with me!" Her voice cracked, raw and desperate. But as she cradled her sister's head in her lap, a new terror gripped her. The helicopter's blades thundered overhead, drowning out the sirens below. Everything felt like a blur, a whirlpool of fear, confusion, and heartache. She caught glimpses of the officers rushing towards them, but it felt like they were miles. "Maya, don't go! You can't leave me!" Jamie shouted, her voice breaking on the last word. She shook her sister gently, hoping for a flicker of response, but all that came was silence. Then, through the haze of panic, she heard a voice, familiar and chilling. "Drop the weapon, now!" It was her mother. She was standing there among the officers, eyes wide, breathless, as though she had just run miles to get there. A sudden hush fell over the chaos. Everyone turned to look at her, and Jamie felt the world caving in again. "Mom, help! Maya!" She pointed, her heart pounding like a drum. "She needs a medic!" But her mother didn't move toward them. Instead, she stepped forward, gaze fixed on the masked figure who was still in shock, breathing heavily. "It's not what you think!" her mother yelled, eyes flaring with an emotion Jamie couldn't understand. Ethan stood rigid, his gun still clutched tightly in his hands. "She was going to expose everything," he spat, pointing at Maya. "You don't know what she was involved in. You don't know what she's done." Jamie turned to her mother, desperation clawing at her throat. What does he mean? What is going on? She felt her heart pound harder, each beat echoing the uncertainty swirling around her. Then it happened. A flash of motion caught Jamie's eye. The masked figure turned his gun on her, and in an instant, Jamie's heart plunged into her stomach. "Mom!" she screamed, throwing herself in front of Maya. But it was too late. In a blinding split second, a shot rang out. Everything froze. The world stilled, the sounds fading into a dull roar. She felt the impact before she even registered it. Something hot and heavy slammed into her shoulder, sending shockwaves through her body. "Jamie!" Maya's voice broke through. "Mon, help her!" The pain was excruciating. Jamie fell to her knees, gasping for breath, feeling the heat of her own blood soaking into her shirt. Something in her began to unravel, a jigsaw of pain and betrayal as she struggled to breathe. Her eyes darted around the scene, finding her mother rushing toward her, panic etched on her face. "Maya! Ethan, get back!" she yelled, but Jamie barely heard her. Darkness loomed at the edges of her vision, and she realized she was slipping away. "Please, don't leave," Maya sobbed, cradling Jamie in her arms. But then, just as everything seemed lost, something unexpected happened. A figure leaped from behind the van, charging toward them. Jamie squinted through the growing haze, and her heart raced with recognition. "No!" she gasped. "What are you doing here?" It was their father. He had arrived. But there was something wrong. Something felt very, very off as he strode forward with a grim determination in his eyes. "Get away from her!" he shouted, pointing at Maya, voice deep and even. "What?" Jamie blinked in confusion, the world spinning. "Dad, help us!" But all her father did was step toward Maya, turning his back on Jamie. "You brought this on yourself, Maya." And with that chilling accusation, Jamie's heart shattered anew. She suddenly realized everything she thought she understood was collapsing around her. Family loyalties, love, and trust, they all began to feel like a lie, swirling in darkness as the truth emerged from the shadows. No one was safe. No one could be trusted. As they all stood there, the cacophony of chaos swirling, Jamie wished she could go back to when everything felt whole and honest. But now, as she neared unconsciousness, she caught a glimpse of something shiny shifting in the dirt by her side. The flash drive. The answers, the secrets, all tangled in that small device. What truth would it reveal? She tried to reach for it, but couldn't. The weight of betrayal, of lost love, was crushing her spirit. With one last raw breath, she whispered, "Please, don't let it end like this." And then the darkness closed in around her, leaving behind questions that gnawed at her soul. What had her family truly been hiding? What had brought them all to this moment? And when she opened her eyes again, would anyone still be standing? As the chaos swirled around them, Jamie felt the weight of her mother's gaze piercing through her like a dagger. "Mom!" she cried, desperation clawing at her chest. "Help us!" But her mother didn't move towards her. Instead, she faced the masked figure, a mix of defiance and fear on her face. "Put the weapon down, Ethan," she said, her voice steady despite the turmoil. Ethan's grip on the gun trembled, horror coming to life in his eyes. "You don't understand what's at stake. They'll come for all of us," her mother shouted back, voice cracking with urgency. It was like watching a storm come to a head, the air thick with electricity. The world around them erupted again. More sirens, shouting officers, the thud of distant footsteps drawing closer. Jamie struggled to take a breath. The knife wound stung like a cruel reminder of everything that had gone wrong. Would this really be the end? "Maya! Jamie!" her mother called. "Stay with me!" But everything felt heavy. Jamie turned back to her sister, who lay lifeless, eyes staring at the sky. She wanted to scream, to howl, but something deep inside her held back the sound. Instead, she focused on the flash drive, glinting in a pool of blood near Maya's fingertips. "Maya," Jamie whispered, torn between action and despair. But she had to reach for it. That drive held answers, pieces of a puzzle that could shine light on the darkness surrounding them. Just as she reached, Ethan lunged forward, blocking her way. "You can't do this!" he shouted, desperation spilling from his words, frantic energy igniting dangerously around them. "I can't let you touch that!" Jamie retorted, fear and rage intertwining. She lunged past him, grabbing the flash drive and clutching it to her chest. In that moment, the air changed. Everyone froze. The officers stepped forward, weapons drawn, voices yelling for calm. Drop the weapon! Everyone, step away! The adrenaline surged in Jamie as she suddenly became the focal point of all their attention. "This isn't just about us anymore," she shouted, her voice rising above the chaos. "We've been played by forces we don't even understand." Her mother's eyes softened, shame flickering in them. "You're right, Jamie. I should have told you everything. I didn't want to pull you into this." "Into what?" Jamie cried, frustration boiling. "Into your dark secrets. Look where that's gotten us." Ethan seemed to recognize defeat. He dropped the gun, fear giving way to a desolate acceptance of his fate. "I never wanted this. I was trying to protect you." His words hung heavy in the air. But Jamie wasn't listening. She needed to understand. "Mom, what are we dealing with? What did we get involved in?" Before her mother could answer, more officers moved in, surrounding them all tightly. "Everything is going to be okay. Just, please stay calm," one officer commanded. Then it happened. A flurry of movement. Suddenly, the masked figure stepped up from behind the trees, his face now fully visible. It wasn't just any masked figure. It was someone Jamie recognized. The realization hit her like ice water poured over her head. She gasped, "You!" In a blink, everything fell apart. The truth cracked open like an egg, spilling chaos everywhere. The figure wasn't just a threat. He was someone from their past. Someone who carried all the secrets folded deep between breaths. The masked man raised his hands, but his eyes glinted with something darker. "Too many people know now. This ends today." A faint noise caught Jamie's attention. A quiet, electronic beep from the flash drive she held. "What is it?" she muttered. The ground shifted beneath her as the officers noticed it too. Suddenly, the air erupted with echoes of danger. "Get back! Keep everyone safe!" one shouted. But it was already too late. The flash drive ignited like fire, an explosion of light and sound. Jamie threw her hands over her head, feeling a surge of energy ripple through her. In that moment of chaos, she realized this was about more than just her family. It was about survival. As the light dimmed, she felt her heart pounding fiercely, knowing that the world had changed forever. The drive slipped from her fingers, landing at her feet. Glowing faintly, holding the truth she needed to set everything right. But could she? Would she have the strength to face it all? As everything came crashing down, Jamie looked around at her family and the officers. Their faces a tapestry of emotions: fear, betrayal, determination. Would they stand together? Would they fight against the secrets that threatened to swallow them whole? And in that moment of realization, she knew it wasn't over. It would never truly be over. What awaited them on the other side of this chaos? You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will push the limits even further. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and let's grow this amazing community. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this wild ride. And don't wait another second to share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to know this outcome. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel with these actions.